association with Stanbic IBTC.
Max are up. Studios live. Smooth 98.1. It's time for Business Express 981. Let's talk business with Rotus. Good morning,
Hey, good
Rotus.
morning. Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, everybody listening. Hope everybody is good.
Yes, we checking in on traffic again today.
Yeah, still good though. I worked really late last night, so I got caught up in the curfew. But thankfully, I'm essential services, so I was able to escape and get home.
Let's chase this
So
paper.
yeah,
Send
be
messages on WhatsApp, please.
yeah, yes, please
Let
send messages.
join the show. Send messages on WhatsApp 0809 444 We're streaming live on YouTube. You can join that too. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and just type Smooth 91 FM Lagos. You'll find us there. On Twitter, we're at Smooth 91 FM. The hashtag is Business Express 91.
All right. So look, Stanbic has been holding some really good webinars, talking to their clients in the business community with regards to how they've been dealing with the lockdown. The series, as it's called Blue Talks, the impact of COVID-19 on key focus sectors. So, I mean, of course, Stanbic has their personal and business banking. They've got their wealth and investment group. They've also got their corporate and investment banking team, and they have these 6 core sector groups that they've been talking to. So, there's the consumer sector, there's conglomerates and industrials. There's oil and gas. There's telecoms, media and technology, power and infrastructure, and then financial institutions. And this, if in fact, our very own Taiwo Iwoli from Tech Friday, he's in the video. I was Taiwo,
cool.
yeah. So he was talking with Olu Delano. He's the head of client coverage that faces all their big clients, and the two corporate heads that they spoke with. One was Nena Okoro. She's the head of the consumer sector, and then they also spoke with Folake Ademilui, who's the head of power and infrastructure, and they had some really good conversations. Nena is a technology buff, and so I really enjoyed her discussion with Olu when she talked about the issues that the clients were facing. And if you think about it like this, if we look at healthcare workers being on the front lines attending to COVID-19 patients, you can look at banks as well on the front lines of client needs. So Nana was talking about in the consumer, of course, consumer goods. You're looking at packaged goods. You're looking at multinationals that are doing business here. You're looking at the locals as well, indigenous brands here in Nigeria. She talked about them having liquidity needs. She talked about their FX exposure. She talked about their working capital needs and how the bank was attending to them. And Olu was asking her, well, look, what kind of themes are you seeing? And the theme for a lot of these corporates is adaptability and resilience. Because if you want to survive, you have to adapt to what's going on with regards to how the lockdown is affecting your business operations, and you have to be resilient. And so in talking to Olu and telling him all the different challenges that they were facing and how they were attending to the challenges, we're seeing that the banks are doing what they can to assist the different businesses, in particular Stanbic, of course, that was hosting this webinar, different businesses that need to get to their clients. And look, one of the things that comes out of this post COVID-19 world, I personally hope, is the abolishment of physical meetings. Okay, because
And I second that.
yeah, I know. So Olu asked, and then I was talking about how he was like, okay, you've been attending to all your clients, all the Stanbic clients that need assistance with this and that. Okay, how have you over your team? How are you guys holding up? And then she was talking about using Microsoft Teams, being able to speak remotely to them, having meetings on that particular platform, and how technology has played a role in ensuring that things continue. She also talked, there's also talking about logistics as well, and she was talking about how she sees the use of drones being used more, for essential deliveries, for consumer the consumer goods clients and so on and so forth. So it was a pretty robust discussion. Folake Ademi Louis, Stanbic's head of power and infrastructure, she also was talking about the 200 billion naira palliative that was provided by government to try to ensure liquidity was continues in that sector. She talked about renewables. Stanbic is talking to a number of its power and infrastructure clients, which include, of course, the discos, the gencos, independent power producers, and everybody that's involved in the value chain, in the power and infrastructure value chain. So this is forcing people to have to look elsewhere, and that's I think is pretty essential. So again, you guys should follow Stanbic on their social media handles, and I'll post the I believe they've already tweeted the links to this once again, Blue Talks, the impact of COVID-19 on key focus sectors, with a number of the heads of the corporate departments in Stanbic talking to businesses and getting the lay of the land as to what they're seeing out there. So I thought it was a good discussion. I'll tweet out the link so you folks can take a look. Very, very insightful. What else is happening? We had an announcement from the NNPC. I tweeted it last night. It was not this morning that I tweeted this. Please follow NNPC Group. Told you guys to follow all our government agencies, parastatals, everybody. Follow them. It's NNPC Group on Twitter. And they said the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation announced a reduction in the ex-depot price of petrol from 113 naira 28 kobo per liter to 108 naira per liter across all products loading facilities as well as in its throughput operations. So there's a long thread. They're talking about looking at market realities. Remember, it was the middle of March, wasn't it? Yeah, it was the middle of March, where they said, because of the fall in oil prices, they would start to essentially deregulate the downstream sector. And so the Triple PRA, Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, will now provide a guide as to how much you're going to be paying at the pump. So this is not the pump price, though. This is the ex-depot price. So, this is what the depots sell to the retailers who now sell to you and I. So the Vanguard took a guess. They have an article out where they said they believe that we'll probably be paying about 117 or 118. They said there's like a 8 to 9 naira difference between the ex-depot price and the pump price. So we're looking at, they'll come out, I'm sure the PPRA will come out with that price today if they haven't already done so. So we'll look out for that. But, we're essentially getting a tax cut. Can we call it a tax cut with regards to fuel being reduced? Although oil has, like I said yesterday, oil has been, it has been rising, although it did dip a bit yesterday. So I think it was about $32 a barrel, but it's since fallen to 29. So I'm looking at $29.74 for Brent crude. And for those asking, Bonnie Light, ours is $22.63. So we have more savings, which is not a bad thing, It's but again, when oil prices start to rise, will they revise the prices upwards, since they're using market dynamics to keep to keep a hold of things? So we'll see how that goes. So that's the announcement from the NNPC. We await the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency to tell us what the pump price is going to be. But the Guardian has taken a stab at this and saying it'll probably be about 117 naira a liter. But again, that's just a guess. So we'll see how that goes. What else is happening? Business Day is saying that bank deposits jumped by 13% in Q1 as businesses were hoarding cash amid the pandemic. So we're looking at about 14.3 trillion naira recorded in the first quarter of 2019 with regards to total deposits collected by tier one banks. Though I think I should note that I don't think they looked at tier 2, but tier 1 banks, you're looking at 14.3 trillion. It's increased by 12.7% to 16.2 trillion for the first quarter of 2020. So which makes sense, I believe. If folks are a little panicked as to what's going on, they'll probably put their cash, deposit more cash with these banks and keep it there. So that's what we're noticing. The banks, though, this is going to be it's going to be a tough year. Well, you
In
know,
what sense?
in the sense that we've had a reduction, which was celebrated on this show, reduction in fees for transfers that was reduced. You know that there's thresholds. If you're transferring under 5,000 naira, above 10,000, above 50,000, and so on, we're no longer paying that standard 50 naira fee on transfers. Now that's been reduced if you're under the threshold. That's one. Then the CBN reduced ATM fees. That's standard 65 naira for reducing making withdrawals at your non-bank institutions. That's been altered. So if you look at 2019, a number of the financials for a number of the banks on their non-interest revenue, they essentially pulled in a lot of money from electronic banking, from the transfer fees, ATM fees, and so on and so forth. They made money there. But now with the central bank making, of course, those adjustments, we've seen fee income, at least on the electronic side, reduce for a number of the banks. Also, reduced transactions due to the lockdown. You've seen now the lines, people rushing to the banks to go and do transactions because they've been locked away. Essentially, for the first quarter, that filtered its way into their earnings as well. The treasury bill, TBO rates, the crash in TBO rates on their, again, even for their, on the net interest margin side for a number of these banks, how much interest they were earning on treasury bills, there was a fall there. So you take all that, put that all together, you look at disposable income for a lot of Nigerians falling. Those are a number of the factors that we're seeing that are going to impact banks, for the rest of this year. Second quarter, it probably is going to be ugly. I mean, again, this first quarter, January and February, is still kind of okay before the issues in March due to COVID-19 started. So you're still seeing January and February pushing up the first quarter results for a number of the banks and other publicly traded businesses as well, that who should release their results on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. But Q2, yeah, that's where we might see a little bit of the ugliness. So we'll wait to see what those figures look like.
Let's look at a few messages.
Yes.
Uche from Ikeja says, good morning, Rogers. I thought the proposed CBN intervention will reduce the price of foreign exchange, but yesterday dollar hit 437 naira per dollar. Please, what's happening?
Uche, thank you for that. That was my next topic. Let's check out the other message. I'll answer him.
Shani says, good morning, Rogers and Valentine. All these noise from NNPC is irrelevant. Why can't they use the opportunity to remove their autonomy and importation of PMS and allow marketers import freely?
Shani, good point. We'll get to that as well. Good point.
Darlington
good question.
Papa says, now that we keep lining up debts, including the recent credit alert of $3.1 billion from IMF, when you discount these debts, we literally have less foreign exchange for any other transaction. Remember when I said we'll buy devaluation with a bad tooth? Now reality is upon us.
Yeah, Darlington was right. He was right.
Benga Komu says some stations haven't reversed to the old price announced by PPMC. So this new price, when do we have compliance?
Benga, we should get that today. Where I'm expecting PPA, the PPR, triple PRA to come out with that to tell us when that will be. So okay, so on FX, Central Bank did intervene, was it last week, with $100 million, I believe. Remember, they came out, they said they will start providing FX to SMEs that need to import. They will provide foreign exchange to parents that are paying school fees. They'll start selling to BDCs. But I believe the BDC part was for one. What was the caveat there? Anyway, they said they'll start selling to BDCs. Was it flights? I can't remember, but they said they'll start selling to BDCs as well. So they did intervene, right? And the as you pointed out, the rates did come down to about 387. Now, the reason for the jump back to 420, 440 something, it's being linked to the ease in the lockdown. So what's being said on the streets, and I called a couple of folks yesterday, they're saying that it's because more people came out, right? They eased the lockdown, demand increased for foreign exchange. That seems to be the only logical explanation that's being provided. So the CBN is yet to intervene again. You can now see the challenges, and you can now see how much this impacts our reserves, where the central bank has to keep coming out to intervene and put a limited supply of dollars into the markets to try to keep the to keep the rates down. It's pretty tough. What was the other question, Val? Let's take a look at
Yes.
WhatsApp again.
WhatsApp.
So the first one was FX. The second was it from Shenny? Well, I think it was from Shenny.
Yeah, Shani says all the noise we've been hearing from NNPC being irrelevant. Why can't they use the opportunity?
Right. Yeah, so that's a good point. So that's linked to foreign exchange. That's just the facts. You are importing your refined crude from overseas, and you have to pay the parallel market rate to be able to bring that in. It's like importing anything else, right? Because it's coming from overseas. So NNPC being the government, if I remember correctly, I think they were able to get their FX rates at a lower rate, a favorable rate for them, which essentially is subsidized, right? So they're also able to get a favorable rate bringing the refined crude in. The independent marketers are not able to do that. So, this one that we're talking about reducing the ex depot price and the pump price, it's fine for you and I, who are the end users who are buying the fuel for our generators and our cars. But the independent marketers, you can't tell them to bring in bring in refined crude at the market rate of FX, a parallel market rate, be that 380, 420, whatever it is on the parallel market, and then now sell to us at what is now going to be, if Vanguard's estimate is correct, 117 naira to 118 or so. It has to be more, right? So what are we paying for fuel now? It's not 125. Yeah, I think it's 125. Right. So they have to. So that's the reason why NNPC is still the only one that's bringing this in, because of the FX component. In fact, shout out to Coyote, an analyst who's been on here in the past, because I talked to him about this. He was like, there's no devaluation until you allow the FX component of this thing to be free for all marketers to bring in at the price that they are able to sell. You don't really have a devaluation. You don't really have a deregulation of the downstream sector. So that's still there. So that's what we're still seeing with regards to that. So until then, it's still an NPC that being the sole importer and provider.
Frank is asking from Satellite Town, FX for school fees. Who's paying school fees in this lockdown period?
Okay,
People
so
are paying school fees.
yeah,
Schools
I mean,
are operating automated systems.
yes, they are. Well, yes, they are. But again, it's for so I mean, you've got your medical tourism, you've got education, there's certain limited options to which you can go to the CBN's window and get the official rate at 360. So it's pretty limited.
Patrick from Ajas says, isn't it reasonable to start refining our crude here in Nigeria now that things have changed?
Indeed, Patrick, it is. And then the group managing director, Melek Kyari, has said that they're going to, hands off the refineries and give them to whoever wants to invest in them, private players. But again, as I've said several times on this show, if you, Patrick or Val or anybody else, Benga Kamo, anybody, Frank, if you are a private investor, will you not want to sell once you refine the fuel, you want to sell at the market price? So that's another issue they have to attend to. But hopefully we'll get there, so we'll see.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, that's it. We're still okay, cool. So I guess we keep monitoring things as they are, and we talk technology tomorrow.
And we smile in the face of adversity.
Yes, indeed.
Check your time, it's 6:59. About to cross lanes, switch lanes actually. Talk COVID-19 and the efforts, to combat coronavirus in Nigeria. Stay tuned to Smooth 98.1.
Business trends beyond the headlines.
Wait. Let me see.
World business news from a Nigerian perspective that help you stay informed more than just numbers.
We've invested $12 billion. Jobs will be created.